Now, this was a day that, unlike most of the days here, I thought Amazon was going to deliver my magnets today. I got a notice in the mail yesterday. Karen got it. Your magnets will be here today. Well, we waited right to the end of the day. The magnets never came. But I found several other things that I could work on, buffing out the carbon fiber parts we previously made. And to be honest, that the parts came out great, and I decided just for an experiment, I wanted to see if I could force dry them. I'm really not in any rush, but I wanted to see if I could make that happen. It worked out great, and I can share that information on this video. And since Craig just left, I thought I'd share a few photos at the end of the video of our trip a few years back. We went to Denver, and what motorcycling in Denver is like. It's a lot different than it is around here. And today I wake up in the morning, and it is really cold. It's the first day of the year. We have ice on a pond to deal with today. Usually, as soon as I see the pond start to freeze over, I have to shut off the waterfalls, put on my bubbler pumps. It's going to be a couple hours of that. This is so cold now that I'm glad I got the painting done yesterday. I'm going to grab those pieces, put them over by the heating vent, down in the cellar, and then take care of the pond. If I get done in time, I can buff that out. The big thing is, we got Craig to the airport because they had some snow in Denver that they had to deal with. We were just hoping everything would go okay with his flight. Everything went fine, but when Karen and I flew to Denver, and I'm going to try to put some of these pictures on a video, there was snow that you couldn't believe. Just comes out, you wake up in the morning and it's like the North Pole. Anyway, Denver's a cool place. I got some photos to share of the motorcycles out there. But right now, I got to take care of business. So this was kind of a test yesterday. I got all the painting on this, and this is pretty much ready to wet sand out and buff. I don't know if you can see it. It dried up nice. But of course, we don't have a spray booth, and there's dust in it. And I'm looking if we have any fish eyes. No fish eyes, but there's dust in the paint. There's dust in the garage. Unless you have a controlled environment, not much you can do about that. But the solution for all that is to carefully buff out the parts. 2000 grit and 8065, and we're going to show that later in the video. So a lot of things happen here. When it gets really cold, I make sure I get the battery charger on all of the bikes every few days. Keep them all topped off, even though we're probably not going to ride for quite a while yet. But I don't like to see the lithium ions. Now, you're not supposed to let them get freezing cold for any length of time either, but I don't know about that for sure. I've only heard people say it both ways, so I figure the best thing is just keep them all on charge. And actually, they've lasted pretty long already. I've got some that are 5-6 years old already. Now, before I get down into the shop here, I wanted to share some information. During all the restorations that I've ever done, one of the things I've tried to put on the video, and all of these bikes are on the channel, of course, one of the things I try to share is how to sequence, how to lay out a project so that you don't wind up with the horse ahead of the cart. Well, one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to wait until I got the new windshield before I painted the windshield. But the way things are coming, I don't know if it's going to be here. They said 2 months the last time, and it came in 2 weeks. But the other thing is I'm waiting for the magnets to do the little side pieces. But sequencing would say, well, I can get them buffed and ready. And actually, if I wanted to, if I run out of projects in the next couple days because of the weather, I can paint this windshield and then just use the new one when it comes in. And I'll still have a painted one and a clear one. But the sequencing is always something you think it's easy until you get the horse ahead of the cart. I also wanted to paint these things, but John and I are still working on that logo. So there's a lot of little things to do, and I like to do it this way, not just rip the whole bike apart and do it in my mind, because I can see it as it evolves. And in this case, it's a labor of love, but it's a great way to spend the winter. Now it's funny, this is Chromax paint, first time I've used it. Now I let the clear, of course, is what's still got to dry. Out in the garage here, where it was 18 degrees about an hour ago, I don't know what it is now, but I'm going to go check. Well, anyway, it's beside the point. It dries, you really do need an extra day before we can buff this, so maybe we'll just cut our losses and put that up by the heating vent for a day. So it doesn't look like we're going to be doing any painting today. Not 21 degrees, with a real feel of 8. And when it gets this cold, there's only one solution. Life after coffee. Boy, the birds are really hungry, Karen. I'm glad you gave them all that bread. We gave them an extra loaf of bread this morning. Now with our parts up by the heating vent, and they really keep in mind what happens as temperature drops, the two-part dries slower. Anything, epoxy even. So we have to take into account, I think it's probably safe to leave it up by a heating vent for an extra day because we're in no rush. We're not going to ride this afternoon anyway. And actually, as soon as we get our magnets, we can put these. I have one set, but I need two sets to do the other parts, and I can do that. But you know what? That pond has to get done today, and Karen just reminded me, get out there before it gets any colder. So I think you can see here's the beginning of ice on the pond, and once that happens, now I have to keep a hole in it. I have to get the bubblers to shut off the waterfalls for the year. And I wanted to, if I could get those parts, I wanted to take the bike out of the garage because I've got to get up on the rafters with a ladder. I've got some business to take care of with the fish pond here, and I always keep the stuff up on the rafters. Now it's in the low 20s right now, and I do remember a day I was so desperate for a ride. It was sunny like it is today, but really cold. In the low 20s, and I went for about a 2-mile ride, turned around and came home, and I said, forget it. And today I won't even bother trying, even though it's nice and sunny. But if I do get the magnets today, I'll be able to see what that's going to look like with the carbon parts anyway, not with the blue. I think we're going to just let that paint dry up another day. Now I keep all the stuff to winterize the pond up in the rafters, but the problem is every time I go up there I find something that I forgot I had. I am a real junk saver, I confess. As an example, here's the bucket with the pond winterizing stuff. Look at this. RD parts, exhaust systems. There's a GS exhaust system here, that carbon fiber exhaust. There's a seat to the GS up here, another exhaust system. And you think you're a junk saver. And I do try to post up what's going on in my life every day, but well, look at that sun. It's hard to believe how cold it is. And yet, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm a lot younger. Maybe I could go for a ride today. And then reality sets in. And for some of my friends who don't know, the bubbles keep a hole in the ice, a small hole, and I still have to chop the ice. But all winter, it keeps the pond from freezing solid. And if it does freeze solid, there's a chance you can kill all the fish with methane gas. So that's done. That's one chore. Now we got to take care of the waterfalls and then get inside and have another cup of coffee. Well, all the outdoor work is done. The pond is winterized, and I'm ready for more coffee. So I was curious today, and I wanted to do a test. I wanted to get a sheet of 2000 grit paper, and this is just an opportunity because of the way this dries. This is an opportunity for me to try something I've been wanting to try for a long time. Okay, now this is Rhino Wet 2000 grit. You can buy this right off the internet if you don't have a body shop supply handy. So what has happened? This has been sitting up by a heating vent, and to my surprise, it was out in the garage where it was really cold, probably down in the mid-teens overnight. It was about 20 degrees when I woke up this morning, and I brought it in the house, put it by a heating vent, and within 4 hours it's totally dry. Now, I know, and I have heard from people that run body shops, you can force dry this paint. I haven't had the need to do it or the opportunity to do it until today, but it looks like you need 4 hours under a heating vent and it's dry. So we're going to take this apart. I'm going to take the 2000 grit, and you can see the dust that's in there. See where my finger is? There's dust. Pretty much no fish eyes, but there's dust in the paint. And that's one of the reasons we buff it out. We always go the extra little mile. So I want to just block sand this down by hand. It'll be a very relatively quick and easy thing. In 8065, I can buff it by hand or by machine. Probably by hand because it's such a small part. Now I'm just trying to see if I can focus in on that little schmutz that's in the paint. And obviously, if you have a Jay Leno paint booth or some professional body shop thing, you don't need to do that. And maybe you'd have less of it, but you almost never have none. So, and most people that want a high quality finish just accept the fact you're going to wet sand this out and buff it. So this is a hard block. It's a solid wood block. And what I want to do, I wanted to show a little bit of this in real time if I can. Take a piece of the 2000 grit Rhino Wet the whole idea of this is I want to get all these are mountaintops, that dust that formed as mountaintops. Now thing I learned today, I was surprised that this dried up. I thought I was going to have to wait till tomorrow to buff it. And one of the things, because it's such a nice sunny day, I wanted to go out and see, pull a bike out. It's already out in the garage, in the driveway, I mean. And I wanted to see what this was going to look like. But again, my magnets are not here, so I can only do like a little temporary test. But anyway, if I can show this, you just saw the dust that was in there. All I'm trying to do is get rid of the dust and scuff the surface so it's ready to be buffed. As soon as I see that it's flat, I'm done. Now, if you look on your sandpaper and you see what amounts to be chewing gum, little white globules, what it'll do, it'll put scratches, not scratches, but little troughs in your finish, and it'll be hard to buff out then. So right now, it's just patience. Now, if I wasn't so curious about this, I wouldn't really, I don't get, when you work and say you're working because you want to make money doing it, well, yeah, being fast is good, but in my case, I'm doing this just for a hobby, more or less. And I try to always say to myself, I'm not getting paid by the hour. Okay, so it's flat. I've done that one in real time. Let me just show it up close if I can. I always like to do one in real time. And we have no dust at all in there. I'll do the rest of this part off camera and we'll be ready to buff. So I wanted to show the difference between the part that has the little dust in it, the part we spent about 5-10 minutes sanding that with a block, and at the end just dust it off by hand. If you see the difference and you know what you're looking for when you're sanding, the 2000 grit, the Rhino Wet, takes that shine right off. And now that part is ready to buff. This one we'll do the sanding off camera. I want to have both of these ready to buff before I take out the 8065. Now even at that, I can tell by the way I can feel of the sandpaper, this really was still a little bit soft. If I had let it dry another day, but I did learn something here. I learned you can do it if for some reason you have to. So to be honest, I was not sure I was going to be able to buff these today, but because I'm not in the habit of force drying paint, but it seems like you need about 4 hours under a heating vent, and because this was definitely not ready to buff when I took it out of the garage this morning. Well, that's the kind of good information it's worth sharing, and that's what we try to do on this channel, share useful information. Remember, the whole goal of this whole thing was so that I would have some parts to evil twin the bike out, and I could just, if those magnets ever come in, I think Amazon lied, they were supposed to be here today, I can just pull these off, put the carbon ones on. And we've made these on previous video, a couple videos back. We made these are solid carbon, this is twill, but we're really closing in. Just got to buff these out. They'll be ready to install if we ever get the magnets. Now this is the material I use. There are a ton of good materials. This one in particular, I've had a lot of good luck with. I'm at the end of this tube, but look, this jar, luckily I already bought a brand new one, so I'm going to try to force the last little bit out of here. And before I start the new one, I want to use up the old material. This I got from Gavin's, and I haven't found a source that you could buy it like from Amazon or something. So if somebody finds a source, let me know and I'll put it on the video. So again, I'm trying to use up the last little bit of this material. And there'll be, okay, nothing special going on here. We've done this enough times, but I'm curious to know, now these are forced dried parts, so maybe it'll be a little more difficult, but my objective is always show the first one in real time and then let people decide if it's worth the time and effort. Now, the thing that I do that's different than a lot of people, I put more clear on, either more coats or thicker coats or just more paint than most people do, because what happens is 6 months from now I might want to do this again, this hand buffing, and it removes material. It's like, I don't want to run out of clear. Now I have taken factory finishes, and the R1 is a good example, and 2000 gritted the whole bike down and polished it. It was way shinier than a stock bike. But you know what? You can only do that a certain amount of times. And I've noticed on no brand in particular, some factory bikes, there is the thinnest coat of clear, one molecule thing. But anyway, when you do your own custom painting, you can avoid that. That's one reason I like doing my own work. I can control it a lot better than that factory finish. I'm never really thinking about it. But you know what? And it's funny that I'm thinking about this now. That finish on the MT-09 gas tank, you can't feel a stripe or anything. They did a nice job on that. Now that's a really low-end bike. I mean, that's an $8,900 bike that they have a finish on it that belongs on a $20,000 bike. So I don't know. Maybe Yamaha was just, I think the reason is it's the only painted part on a bike, really. That flat stuff that they put on the fender of a stock bike, I don't even know what that is. That's like primer or something. Anyway, let me show this up close. I like to do it in real time. Then it's believable. You don't feel like it's some kind of scammy thing. Okay. And if you see that, how that polished up, you can figure out yourself, if you will. Here's the part I didn't polish on the back. And I'll do the rest of this basically either in fast forward or off camera, and that's it, baby. That is what I like to see on my motorcycle right there. No flat paint. I wish I could do the whole bike without doing any flat paint. Now I always find these smaller parts, they're just easy to do when you're trying to hold a buffer and hold a part, and just get some more chance you're going to damage the finish in some way. But it's not that labor intensive, and when you're done, you really have something special. Now the next thing to do is to get the magnets, is really what we have to do. But I wanted to take them outside and just hold them in place while we're waiting for the magnets, and see if I'm going to like the blue or the carbon more, or maybe I'm going to like them both. I don't know. It buffed out beautifully, by the way. No, unfortunately, I did one final check to see if Amazon was going to deliver those magnets today. Not happening, but I may be able to just put these in place with some blue tape just to see what they look like. Because it is a sunny day out there. Freezing cold, but a sunny day. And I wanted to see what these... All four of those parts came from one template that we made on a previous video. Well, I had to come out and look at how this look. But again, Amazon let us down today. We don't have our magnets. I can see what the blue one looks like. Now, I can't really get that in position until I have the magnets. That's the problem. The tape isn't really holding it in the right position. But I get a little bit of view of how a small detail like that, and of course we have a lot more small details to do over the winter. And that winter started today, the real winter. And I really do like the way the blue looks. Well, you know what? We're going to have both, so it doesn't really matter. And now I just try to picture it, how it's going to look with those silver wheels. And you know what the truth is? When I was doing the R1 wheels in silver, I was daydreaming about them all day long. And it was a lot of hours of hard work to do that set of wheels and get brand new tires on it. But boy, I've enjoyed having them ever since, and I'll have them forever. Now my forever and your forever might be two different amounts of time, but when I put the time and energy and effort into these bikes, like the wheels that are on the GS, I always assume I'll have them for a long time. That'd probably be a better way to put it. And every one of these sets of wheels was a true labor of love. And I'm always amazed how small of a detail it takes to change a whole motorcycle. It's unbelievable how quick that changes. It doesn't take giant things. Small details will change the whole look of a motorcycle. Now it's funny, it isn't very often that Amazon disappoints us, but today was one of those days. I really thought, because Karen got a thing on her email that it's due today, but you know, we went right to the end of the day and never came. So the last little part of this puzzle is going to be, once we get the magnets, to see if that's an appropriate way of attaching this, or we have to come up with something else, or whatever. But we have multiple choices now, and I think none of them are bad. I think the carbon fiber ones that are black kind of look nice, but I'm kind of favoring the blue too. It's like having two girlfriends, and they're both beautiful blondes. I don't know. Maybe even 2 redheads. I don't know. But anyway, we have, over the course of the last week or so, ended the visit with Craig. He's back in Denver. They had all kind of problems in Denver in the area where he lives. And I wanted to share a few photos of the time that we went out. We went out a few years ago, and to tell you the truth, I was amazed what a beautiful area it is. But boy, when they get snow, is it snow. So I went through the computer and found this short set of pictures from our trip to Denver, and I think most people will find this interesting. I found, again, I found Denver to be a super interesting place. Luciano's son lives pretty much in the same area. This is just north of Denver. This is the main Denver airport. And we flew in there, and it was cold. I think it was in the middle of the winter. But you can see there's no snow on the ground. Now, what happens in Denver that doesn't happen in Rutherford that often, they have these giant temperature swings of 40 degrees in one day. And when they say it snows, a lot of time it snows in the morning, and by the afternoon the snow's all melted. So Craig warned us ahead of time to dress appropriately, and we went to his house where he was living at the time. He, of course, has his own business, and he's busy in the financial world here, doing something. I really think he's in the mafia, but I'm not going to say that. Here's his dog. I think this dog is in a mafia too. So anyway, we went out there thinking we'd get to see this area. Now, when Craig took us on tour of the area, we found out that the Stanley Hotel, and that's where they made the movie The Shining, was in the area. And so we took a chance. We got up real early in the morning, and we got in this car that I don't remember what kind of car it was, but we started out, there was not much snow. And we headed up in the hills to this Stanley Hotel. And this is the hotel where they made the movie The Shining. And by the way, they didn't use this hotel. They made a copy of it. They did not use this hotel at all in the movie, but this hotel was spectacular. And when we came home, we watched the movie of The Shining just to see. And it was fun. Here's Craig trying to show us the mountain views here and places that he goes, does his thing. He rides dirt bikes, of course, and among other things. In the past, he's had dirt bikes. I don't know if he's even got one anymore. But here's the thing. These mountain passes, if you look at these real close, look at them real close, there was snow everywhere. By the time we got up there, maybe it was a couple hours, I don't even remember, there's the hotel. That's the Stanley Hotel. And it was freezing cold. They have a car in the lobby. And among other things, if you watched it, they let you dress up like you Jack Nicholson. This is funny. If you look around this area, and you're in the mountains here, and I can imagine there's Jack Nicholson, in fact. I can imagine you wake up some morning, and there's only a little bit of snow on the ground, and you go to work, or you go wherever you got to go, and by the time you get out of work, you're in holy mackerel. And look at these passes. Mountain passes and everything. I found it an interesting and very, very cool place. But I wanted Craig to take me to the local motorcycle dealer. I just wanted to see what they had, what was available. And he says, these people out in Denver, they just leave the bikes out in the snow. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. Motorcycle Mall would never do this. They leave the bikes out in the snow all winter. Can you imagine? I said, that's totally different than motorcycling in our area of the country. Totally different. Even Chopperooly here is Snowarooly. Look at this. And even a sport bike sitting there all covered with snow is breaking my heart. Anyway, inside the dealership, they had this really old classic Ducati. And Big Jim had this exact bike, I think, at one time. I'm not sure if he still had it. We went back to the house, and this is all on day one. And Craig made us a homemade pizza. Of course, he's a trained chef and has his own very sharp knives, among other things. But anyway, we did enjoy the pizza. We enjoyed the little tour of the area. And we went to some of the other more mundane places. But that Stanley Hotel was pretty cool. You can look that up on the internet for how they made a replica of it when they made the movie. Anyway, we're at the point with this project where, and I think I talked about it earlier, sequencing. Now, we're waiting for the windshield. We're waiting for our magnets. I don't want to get the horse ahead of the cart. We have a whole long winter ahead of us to do the wheels. Some of the more parts that I want to paint, I'm not sure about the logos yet. We're still going back and forth about the size and shape of the logos. All of that stuff is details. And this is not going to be a radical restoration. This is a very simple restoration, but I want it to be exactly the way I envision it. I don't want it to be something that just, that it becomes an unrideable motorcycle. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.